to George, the curious little monkey. He's so full of curiosity. Here's to George, the curious little monkey. He's as curious can be.
Curious George goes apple picking. George, said the man with the yellow hat, it's apple picking time. Let's take a ride into the country. Soon, they came to the apple farm. This looks like a good place, said the man. These apples look as if they've just been picked. A crowd of people were waiting in line to buy apples. A boy named Keith and a girl named Carol were standing nearby looking very sad. We wanted to pick apples, Carol said, but the owner says we're too young. Maybe you can try again next year, said the man with the yellow hat. And then he got in line to buy some apples. Then he turned to George. You can look around, he said, but don't get into trouble. George wandered off. There was a large dump truck with lots of apples in it. The owner of the farm was giving orders to her helpers. Let's get those apples into the truck, she said. The helpers took the baskets of apples they had picked and put them into the back of the truck. The door to the truck was open. While no one was looking, there were two levers sticking up from the floor. What were they for? George was curious. The helpers were just lifting the last bushel basket of apples into the truck. Okay, said the owner. It's full. Close it up. George pulled one of the levers. Before the helpers could close the back, it started to lift up. George had pulled the dumping lever. The back lifted up higher and higher. Apples started rolling out. Who's opened the back of the truck? Cried the owner. More apples came pouring out. They bounced and rolled all over. Apples were everywhere. The driver of the truck came running over. What's happened here, he asked. I was just about to take the apples to the market. The owner was angry. Look at the mess, she cried. What are we going to do? George was scared. He jumped out of the truck and ran away. There he goes, cried the driver. It's that monkey. And he started to run after him, followed by the owner and then the helpers. Quickly, George climbed one of the apple trees and disappeared into the branches. He was safe. When he looked down, he saw Carol and Keith standing near the tree. They had some empty baskets with them. Boy, said Keith, if we could only get to those apples up there, we'd show them. George picked up one apple and dropped it into the basket. The children looked up. It's George, Carol cried. Maybe you can help us. How good that George was a monkey. He could pick apples with 4 hands. Wow, cried Keith, it's raining apples. George picked so many apples that Carol had to run back for more baskets. Finally, the whole tree was picked. There were 25 bushels full. We're done, George, shouted Keith. Suddenly, George saw the driver of the truck, the owner, and the helpers rush over. The owner was shaking her fist. So you're the one who caused all the trouble, she yelled. Come on down at once. Wait, cried Keith. Look at all the apples George picked. Then the owner saw the bushels. And I thought we'd never pick those high ones, she said. Nice work, George. I guess that makes up for dumping all those apples. Why don't you take a bushel for yourself? And you both did some nice work, too, she said. I'll hire you after all. Just then, the man with the yellow hat came to pick up George. And off they drove back home.